We are counting down the 10 small planes with the strongest statistical track records in general aviation. Each aircraft on this list has earned its reputation, not through superstition or luck, but by combining honest engineering, forgiving flight habits, and lessons learned from decades in the sky. Some became trusted teachers for beginner pilots. Others inspired new safety cultures or quietly protected families on weekend flights. Their accident rates stand out in a world where the odds often feel nerve-wracking. What makes these machines so dependable? Is it the way they handle a stall, their rugged designs, or the way pilots are trained to respect their limits? The answers might surprise you as we go from classic trainers to modern marvels and finally reveal the #1 safest small plane in the rankings. Let us begin our countdown with number 10, a post-war original that turned discipline into its first safety feature. The Cessna 140 rolled out of Wichita's factories in 1946, just as America's hunger for flight was exploding. About 7,000 of these little tail draggers found their way into hangars and grass strips across the country. They were not flashy, but they had a reputation. If you could master the 140, you had earned your wings the old-fashioned way. The nickname Little Teacher stuck for a reason. Every flight demanded that a pilot use their feet. Rudder work was not optional. That discipline paid off. Most incidents in the Cessna 140's long history happened during landings, not in the air. The plane's simple systems and honest stall progression gave pilots a fair warning and a chance to recover, even if their skills were still green. Statistically, the Cessna 140 posted an accident rate of about 3 per 100,000 flying hours, remarkably strong for its era, and the best record among two-seaters of its time. For generations, this aircraft taught respect for the basics, rewarding careful hands and steady nerves. It is a legacy built on discipline, not indulgence. Next up, what happens when modern materials and panoramic visibility rewrite the safety playbook? The Diamond DA20 looks like it belongs in a different era, sleek, modern, and built from carbon composite instead of riveted aluminum. Step inside and the difference is immediate. A bubble canopy arcs overhead, flooding the cockpit with light and giving pilots a panoramic view of the world outside. For student pilots, that visibility is more than a luxury. It is a safety feature. Instructors say the DA20 teaches new aviators to scan the sky and the horizon instinctively, catching traffic and weather before they become threats. The seating is upright and ergonomic, so every control falls naturally to hand, cutting down on distractions when it matters most. Statistically, the DA20 posts an accident rate of 0.75 per 100,000 flight hours in collegiate training fleets, a figure that stands out in a world where new pilots are still learning the ropes. Much of that record comes down to the way the DA20 behaves near the edge of its envelope. The stall brake is gentle, with plenty of aerodynamic warning and a smooth, predictable drop of the nose. When a student gets behind the airplane, the DA20 gives them time and options. As one instructor puts it, you feel it talking to you before you ever get in trouble. That is how a modern trainer earns its place in the safety record books. Next comes a low-wing classic that turned the entire cockpit into a classroom. The Piper Archer does not try to impress with flash. It is a low-wing workhorse built to turn everyday flying into a steady routine. Flight schools and owners alike praise the Archer's conservative geometry, dihedral wings that keep the airplane stable, even when a student gets distracted or a gust tries to nudge things off course. Mechanics appreciate it for other reasons. Inspection panels are easy to reach, parts are widely available, and routine maintenance rarely turns up surprises. That simplicity keeps costs down and airplanes in the air, not waiting on a shop floor. The Archer's accident rate, about 6.9 per 100,000 flight hours, lands right alongside its main rival, the Cessna 172. What sets the Archer apart is not statistical magic, but the way its design and upkeep encourage predictable, disciplined flying. Instructors trust it to introduce new pilots to crosswind landings and pattern work, knowing the airplane will respond the same way, flight after flight. For thousands of students, the Archer's cockpit is where theory turns into muscle memory. When a plane's habits are this predictable, safety follows. Next, the story shifts to a trainer engineered for gentleness from the ground up. Beechcraft's Skipper sits quietly in the background of aviation history, but its story is all about intention. From the start, the Skipper was engineered to be gentle. Every control, every surface was tuned for harmony between pilot and machine. The ailerons and rudder respond with a softness that forgives clumsy hands, making it a favorite among instructors who want students to learn, not struggle. Fewer than 500 skippers ever left the factory, but in the hands of flight schools, this little trainer logged mission after mission without drama. 2/3 of its flights have been for instruction, when the risk of surprises runs high. Yet the skipper's accident rate, 0.72 per 100,000 hours, remains impressively low for a fleet so small. That figure comes with a caveat. When you are working with a tiny population, the margin for error in the statistics is wide. Still, the numbers and the stories both point the same way. Instructors trust the skipper because it behaves the same way every time. No quirks, no hidden traps. Maybe that is why, even though it never became a commercial hit, the Skipper stands out in the record books for one simple reason. It almost never catches anyone off guard. Next comes a plane that taught more people to fly than any other, and did it with a safety record built on sheer volume. No other small airplane has shaped American flying habits quite like the Cessna 150 and 152. More than 23,000 of these trainers rolled off assembly lines, filling flight schools and rental fleets from coast to coast. That kind of scale could have spelled trouble with new pilots, long hours, and hard landings, but the numbers tell a different story. The Cessna 150 and 152 post an accident rate of 0.62 per 100,000 flight hours, an achievement that stands out in the world of general aviation. Standardized syllabi, drilled into generations of student pilots, meant that every lesson followed the same script. Instructors knew exactly how the plane would behave, and so did their students. The camber plate wingtip and leading-edge design made stalls gentle and recoverable, even for hands still learning the ropes. Glide performance turned emergencies into exercises in patience. Countless stories tell of engine failures where a 150 or 152 glided safely to a field or a quiet stretch of highway. When a plane is this predictable, it becomes the backbone of a safety culture. The Cessna 150 and 152 did not just survive the pressures of mass production, they set the standard. Next, a leap in materials and aerodynamics pushes the safety story even further. The Diamond DA40 does not look like a traditional trainer, and its safety record does not read like one either. Built from advanced composites and shaped by computer-aided design, the DA40 carries a reputation that stands out in the numbers. It records 0.45 accidents per 100,000 flight hours, the lowest fatality rate among 4-seat piston singles in general aviation. That is not an accident. The secret is in the aerodynamics. A laminar flow wing borrowed from sailplane technology gives the DA40 a best glide ratio of 9:1. In plain terms, every 1,000 feet of altitude buys nearly 2 miles of reach if the engine goes quiet, a margin that transforms emergencies into manageable situations. The wing shape also matters at the edge of the envelope. Instead of a violent stall, the DA40 offers a gentle nose-down brake, with the aileron staying effective longer thanks to a carefully engineered twist in the wing. Pilots get a clear warning before things go south, and the plane gives them time to recover. Add a cockpit designed with energy-absorbing structures and a crush zone beneath the seats, and survivability moves from theory to practice. The DA40's numbers are not just a product of luck or a cautious pilot pool. They are the result of deliberate engineering choices that convert bad moments into survivable outcomes. Next, a classic low-wing design that welcomed entire families into the world of flying. Families stepping into the world of flying often find themselves in a Piper Cherokee 140. This is not an accident of history. It is the result of a design built around everyday people, not just student pilots. The Cherokee 140's low-wing layout offers a sense of solidity, with a main spar that shrugs off hard landings and rough fields. Wing loading sits at 13 pounds per square foot, giving the plane a steady, planted feel even when the air turns choppy. The cabin is wide for its class, with seats that welcome passengers who might be nervous on their first ride. Instructors and parents alike trust the Cherokee 140 for discovery flights, knowing that the plane's gentle touchdown manners and forgiving flair make every landing feel unhurried. Accident statistics back up that reputation. The Cherokee 140 posts an accident rate of 0.68 per 100,000 flight hours, a number that stands tall among recreational aircraft. Its secret is not flash or fancy systems, but a structure that absorbs mistakes and a flight profile that lets pilots recover before trouble turns serious. The Cherokee 140 may not have the vast data set of the Cessna 172, but in the world of family flying, its record speaks for itself. Next, the countdown enters a territory where sheer numbers and decades of trust have created legends. Over 44,000 Cessna 172s have rolled out of factories since 1956, more than any other aircraft in history. For generations, this high-wing four-seater has been the face of American general aviation at flight schools, rental fleets, and family airstrips from Maine to California. The numbers tell a story that is almost impossible to ignore. When you adjust for flight hours, the Cessna 172 posts an accident rate of 0.58 per 100,000 flight hours. That is not just good, it is the gold standard, especially when you consider the sheer volume of pilots who have learned, practiced, and flown for pleasure in these planes. The 172's secret is not a single breakthrough, but a philosophy built into every part. The Clark Y airfoil, borrowed from classic engineering, gives the wing a gentle stall and a predictable brake, no sudden wing drop, no nasty surprises. The high wing design opens up the view below, letting instructors and students alike keep an eye on traffic, landmarks, and weather. Maintenance is straightforward and parts are everywhere, so every airplane in the fleet can be kept in fighting shape with minimal downtime. That ecosystem, thousands of mechanics, a global supply chain, and a training syllabus refined over decades means the 172 behaves the same way every time, no matter where you fly it. Instructors trust the 172 with first solos, night flights, and cross-country adventures because it is honest. If a student makes a mistake, the airplane gives them time to fix it. If the engine goes quiet, the glide buys precious seconds to pick a field and set up for landing. With so many pilots logging their first hours in the 172, the accident rate could have been much higher. Instead, the numbers prove what pilots already know. Consistency saves lives. This is the baseline, the statistical bedrock against which every other airplane is measured. But in the next chapter, safety takes a leap forward, not just with design, but with a new kind of built-in backup. The Cirrus SR20 does not just look modern, it redefines what safety means in a small airplane. At first glance, it is the only plane on this list with a red handle above the pilots' heads. That red handle is the trigger for CAPS, the Cirrus airframe parachute system. If the worst happens, the entire airplane can float safely to the ground. It is not a gimmick. Since the first SR20 rolled out in 1999, CAPS has been credited with saving more than 60 crews across the Cirrus fleet. But the real story is not just the parachute, it is how the SR20's entire design and training culture have changed the numbers. Statistically, the SR20 posts an accident rate of 0.38 per 100,000 flight hours. That is not just low for a modern single, it is among the very lowest ever measured. In 2024, not a single fatal SR20 accident was recorded anywhere in the world. The secret is not just in hardware. More than 3/4 of Cirrus owners complete recurrent training every year, and the company's CSIP program teaches pilots exactly when to use the parachute, not just how it works. Advanced glass cockpit avionics add another layer of protection, alerting pilots to weather, traffic, and terrain long before they become threats. The result is a safety record that turns bad days into survivable outcomes. But the SR20's reputation comes with a caveat. Its fleet is smaller than workhorses like the Cessna 172, and it is flown mostly by owners who invest in discipline. Still, the numbers do not lie. When design, technology, and culture all pull in the same direction, The result is a plane that rewrites the odds. Next, a classic American icon that earned its trust the old-fashioned way, through decades of dependable performance. The Beechcraft Bonanza A36 stands at the top of the list not because of flash or novelty, but because of a reputation built over decades and thousands of hours in the hands of people who rely on statistics, not luck. Since its introduction, the A36 has been a favorite of doctors, business owners, and professionals who needed a cross-country machine that delivered every time. Its long, straight wing is not just for show. With a wing loading and aspect ratio tuned for stability, the A36 shrugs off turbulence and holds its course when lesser planes would wander. That design choice, more than anything, gives the Bonanza its signature ride: steady, planted, and predictable, even when the weather turns fickle. Owners talk about the A36 the way ranchers talk about a trusted horse. They tell stories of flying through mountain passes or making late-night medical flights, and the common thread is always the same: confidence. The numbers back that up. The Bonanza A36 posts an accident rate of 0.51 per 100,000 flight hours. That is not a statistical fluke. It is the result of a culture where pilots invest in regular training, stick to maintenance routines, and fly with the discipline that this machine deserves. About 1,000 active A36s still crisscross the country, many with logbooks thicker than some pilots' entire careers. The structural lineage of the Bonanza traces back to 1947, but the A36's reputation was earned in the real world, on urgent trips, in unpredictable skies, and in the quiet confidence of pilots who trust their lives to honest performance. It is not immune to mistakes, and it demands respect near the edges of its envelope, but when flown within its limits, the A36 delivers a blend of speed, comfort, and reliability that few can match. In the end, its place at the top is not about being untouchable. It is about earning trust, one safe arrival at a time. And that is the real story behind the numbers. Across all 10 of these aircraft, one pattern stands out. The safest planes aren't built on luck. They are built on predictable, forgiving design, and they are flown by pilots who respect their limits. In general aviation, reliability is never an accident. It's the result of clear choices and steady habits, proven in millions of landings that end exactly as planned. That's why trust, not thrill, defines the sky's true legends.